So with our launch compensation set, we're ready to run a test. What I've got here is a little sacrificial OTDR port fiber. We'll talk about that in a moment and the reason why I'm doing that. I've got my launch fiber, I've got my tail fiber, and I'm connected to my link under test. And for those of you who saw that OptiFiber Pro video I did, this is the same fiber that I'm testing. And there's a good reason for doing that when I download the results later on. So we're going to be measuring this in one direction and in the other direction, and we're going to be disconnecting from the OTDR. The reason why I'm using this 12-inch 30-centimeter cord is to protect my OTDR port, because when I measure this link in the other direction, I'm going to be disconnecting from the OTDR port. So by having this little short cord on there, this is the cord that gets changed all the time. It's certainly a lot easier to replace this little cord than it is an OTDR port. Now I can do this because it's very short and it's within the attenuation Z zone of the OTDR port. You can never ever put a short cord on the end of your launch fiber to convert it from one connector to the next, because if you do that, you're going to end up measuring two events as one and potentially failing a link that should not be failing. So this is okay, but never put this short cord on the end of the launch fiber. So we're all set up and we're ready to go, and we'll just make sure we're on the home key. We are. Go ahead and tap test for me, Amanda. When it does the test here, you'll see we've got our OTDR port connection quality, and you can see our traces building with our two little spikes representing this connection here and this connection here on our table here. What comes up on the screen first is event map. And on the event map here, you'll notice that we have three segments of fiber. The first segment, which is slightly grayed out, is our launch fiber. The last segment, which is also slightly grayed out, is our tail fiber. The slightly grayed out, that tells me that we actually used launch plus tail compensation. So the length reported up here is only the length of the fiber that we actually measured. Most people doing an OTDR measurement expect to see an OTDR trace. So go ahead and tap on trace there. And that's exactly what you get on this instrument. It is a full-blown OTDR tester. Now this is what we call sticky. So the next time you go and do a test, you're not going to see event map, you're going to see the trace here. And lots of folks like to spend time analyzing the trace. And again, you can do that with this OTDR. It even has a pinch and zoom feature. So go ahead and pinch and zoom in on one of those events. So it's kind of fun, you can really do all the analysis that you want to do. But in reality, most people these days doing OTDR testing are not testing 12 fibers, they're testing hundreds if not thousands of fibers. And it's really just not practical to go through and analyze every trace every time you do a measurement. And that's where we created Event Map. Now if you don't have an OptiFiber Pro, what you might do is go to the table. So go ahead and tap on table for me. And that kind of makes it a little bit simpler, but you still got to read a whole bunch of numbers. But if we go to Event Map, it just makes life so much easier. And the event will also go to the largest loss event that's recorded. Now you'll see that there's another connector there, Amanda. If you want to tap on that other connector for me, you'll notice that the box jumps and now we're reporting the loss on that other connector as well. And that's something unique to this tester, is that you can bob around the different connections on the link. If you have more than 2 connections, maybe 10 connections in your link, all 10 connections are going to be reported. Splices are reported as a little round thing, and the connections are reported as you see on the screen here. So that's our measurement done, it's saved. But we've only done it in one direction. Well, we haven't saved it yet. Go ahead and tap save for me. And you'll notice in the top right hand corner here it says N1. That's important to note because we're testing from N1 so far. It should say 01A, which is our cable ID sequence. So go ahead and hit save. And now it's saved. So what we want to do is we want to make the measurement in the other direction. So I'm going to disconnect from my launch fiber here. I'm going to cap it. Bring around here. Amanda's going to connect it in the other end, and we're going to measure this fiber in the other direction. Now, before we do that, there is one other thing we need to do. Go and press the home key for me and the cable IDs. Remember, we're testing from N1. We're not testing from N1 anymore. We're testing from N2. So go ahead and move that over to N2 and down here. And so hopefully on our home screen now, it should say N201A. If you didn't change it from N1 to N2, what's going to happen is if you try and save it as 01A again, the tester is going to complain that you've already got that test result. But by swapping this cable ID to N2, the tester's smart enough to go, haha, I know you already have a 01A, but because you're telling me it's from the other end, then that's okay, and it's going to save that. And it will create one record for that one fiber testing in both directions. Go ahead and test now. And again, our OTDR port connection quality is shown on the screen here. Oh, we have a warning on the screen. What is this warning, Amanda?
It says negative loss gainer event found.
Isn't that a familiar term to a lot of OTDR users? So what has actually happened here is at one of these connections here, we have a slight mismatch in backscatter coefficient between the fiber that we're using to test and the fiber under test. Now, normally that causes some fear, but that's not a problem in this instance, and I'll show you in a moment why. So go ahead and tap OK for me. And go and tap the other connector on the event map here. And does it show a negative loss there?
Yes, negative 0 or 0.05.
Okay, so there's our negative loss value. Now, if you get more than minus 0.2 dB, you will get a warning on your test report. Now, how do you get rid of that negative loss warning? The standards recognize that this can happen. And so what they tell you to do is to test it in both directions. Now, we're testing it in both directions. The second part of that equation is you then download the results and you average the directions that you're tested in. So in a moment in the next video, when we download the test results, we're going to do that averaging, and that negative number is going to disappear, and we're going to end up with a positive number. And not only is it going to be positive, it's going to be more representative of the loss that's in that connection. Now, for those who out there are listening to this accent, you can probably tell that I'm not from America, I'm from the UK, and being from the UK, I've set the unit to meters, and I know what you're thinking, I want this in feet. So Amanda, press the home key for me, and tap Tools, and swipe up to where we see our feet and meter option. Okay, press the home key, and tap Unsaved Result. Now our event map is in feet and everybody can relax. So yes, you can flip this between feet and meters, and you can also do that in the Linkware software. We must remember though, we need to save the result. So go ahead and hit save. There's my cable ID list confirming it's N2, it's 01A. Go ahead and hit save. And now I've completed my OTDR measurement in both directions. But before we go off and download some test results, I am going to cut across to another setup. We're going to show you what happens when a link fails. So that was a passing test result. What happens when you get a failing result? So an example I've got on the table here is there's a bad splice halfway down the link. And the nice thing is with Event Map, it clearly displays where that is, and I can go straight to that location and figure out what's going on. On a traditional OTDR, if you'd like to tap Trace, you're going to have to try and figure out this trace, pinch and zoom in and try and figure out where that event is. But again, if you go and tap Event Map, it just makes life so much easier. So that's an example of a passing result, an example of a failing result. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to download those results, print out those all important test reports and get paid for that job.